Hey everyone, welcome back. So today is Friday. Hope you guys are going to have a good Friday and a good weekend. Markets were pretty much up today. Bitcoin was up also. It's down a little bit now. But then we also have some of the miners were up, some of the miners were down. So we'll take a look at that as well. But I want to talk to you guys about, there's a story for Core Scientific, TeraWulf, Israeli bank who's going to be offering crypto trading. And we also have a story on how China has possibly given the U.S. miners a $1 trillion present. So we'll get into all that. But first, as always, not financial advice. You know the drill. I'm investing in fund companies and coins. And let's take a look at the miners here first, and then we'll get into the Bitcoin and Ethereum, see how they stacked up today, and then we'll look at the stories. So ANY was down today 5.77% on the day to $1.96. It is still battling with the 20-day moving average here on the chart. You can see it's using that kind of as a support right now. We'll see if that continues on. Argo was up 0.1% to 98 cents. It is still above the 50-day moving average here on the chart. And we got Bitfarms. Bitfarms was down 6.05% to $3.73. And it is looking like support right now is on the 50-day moving average for it. Cleanspark was down 3.5% to $12.68. It did get above the 200-day moving average here, but it fell below it. It is now between the 100-day and the 200-day moving average. Core Scientific was down 0.92% to $8.60. It looks like right now the 50-day moving average is a support for it. We'll see how long that can hold on to it. And then Digihost was down 0.57% to $3.47. And it also looks like the support for it is the 50-day moving average right now on the chart. DMG was up 0.19% to 48 cents. And we can kind of see that the 20-day moving average is the support for it right now. It did get above the 20-day, but it came back down. Hive was down today 2.3%, even though it was up higher on the day a little bit. It finished out at $2.12. And it is above the 50-day moving average as well. Hot 8 was down 3.4% to $5.90, and it is now below the 50-day moving average. We'll see if it can maintain support on the 20-day moving average going forward. It all obviously depends on where Bitcoin goes. But Iris Energy was up actually 4.12% to $14.39. It did touch the moving averages here on the 20-day, it looks like, and it got rejected here. It now looks like the support is on the 50-day moving average, and we'll see how this plays out. Luxfolio was up 3.63% today to 29 cents. It is above the 50-day moving average, and it went up a little bit higher but came back down on it. It looks like Marathon was down 4.75% to $28.89. It is in between the 50-day and the 100-day moving averages right now. And then we got Mawson. Mawson was up 1% to $5.05. It is also between the 50-day and the 100-day moving averages right now. And then Riot was down 3.62% to $20.76. It came pretty close to touching the 100-day moving average here on the green line, but it wasn't there just yet. The green line is about $23.34. So it was within, a dollar or so of touching it. So let's take a look at Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin obviously went above 45,000 on the day, was at 45,130. It is right now at 44,368. We have a nice, obviously, decline here on the RSI, on the 1 hour chart, which leads us to believe, we can see it here. We're way down here at the peak. We were almost over here on the RSI. We were at a price of 4,459 or something like that. And we are up from that, and the RSI is down, which leads me to think we are going to be possibly going up higher on this. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum is doing the same thing. RSI is down. Obviously, from the peak here, if we look back, it is a little bit down from it, but it's way down on the RSI. I think this still is a good shot for it to go up higher here in the weekend. We'll see how this plays out. Obviously, we have the Bitcoin expiry today as well. So obviously, the bulls were able to keep Bitcoin price above 44,000. So they're pocketing pretty good right now. Bears, not so much. And we'll see obviously how next week rolls on for both the bulls and the bears. We'll see who can maintain control of it. So let's take a look at our first story here, which is Core Scientific. Core Scientific is going to schedule their full fiscal year 2021 earnings release and conference call. So obviously, Core Scientific, a leader in high-performance net carbon-neutral blockchain infrastructure and software solutions, today announced it will issue financial results for the company's full fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021. after the market closes on Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. We have a couple other companies, I believe, on Monday also providing some results. So we'll take a look at those. And management will host a conference call and a live audio webcast to discuss the results at 3:30 p.m. Central Time that day. We'll take a look at the results and see if we can maybe get the conference call as well. Next is TeraWulf. So Bitcoin miner TeraWulf stock can rally almost 160%, says Analyst. B. Riley initiated the environmentally sustainable miner stock with a buy rating and a 12-month price target of $24. A lot of the miners right now are undervalued regardless. It's just the market that we're in right now. So Bitcoin miner TeraWulf is leading the pack in sustainable mining, and its stock continues to trade at a large discount versus peers. Wall Street investment bank B. Riley said in a researched note issued Thursday after the market closed. So while many other miners aim for carbon neutrality, TeraWulf is entering the space using zero carbon resources from the start, wrote analyst Lucas Pipes about the company, which went public in December and is backed by celebrities such as actress Gwyneth Paltrow. I talked about this back then. I think even before it went public. We covered them a little bit here. Pipes is also the only analyst covering the stock, according to FactSet Data, initiated coverage of TeraWulf with a buy rating and 12-month price target of $24 per share, implying 159% upside from Thursday's closing price of $9.28. On Thursday, shares of TeraWulf were up 11.7%, and they were rising roughly 6% in early trading on Friday. The stock has fallen about 36% this year, underperforming the mining-heavy Verdi cleaner energy, crypto mining, and semiconductor exchange-traded fund rigs, which was down 17%. A lot of the miners have been down this year, so it's no surprise there. The miner is using 100% zero-carbon nuclear energy at its Nautilus crypto mine facility in Pennsylvania and at its Lake Mariner site in upstate New York. The company is using a power from the grid through a deal with the New York Power Authority, whose mix is 90% carbon-free, primarily using hydropower, Pipes said. Pipes also noted TeraWulf has an experienced management team that has worked in the energy infrastructure and power management, and cited the miners' joint venture deal with Talon Energy, which enables the companies to lock in longer-term power contracts. Those are obviously good things. And then on March 17th, TeraWulf said it sees itself reaching a hash rate range of 4.7 to 5.1 exahash per second by the end of 2022 and 23 exahash of mining capacity by 2025. So that is actually pretty good. But here's my take on that. So we know that Core is going to be a lot bigger than them this year. They're going to be probably close to something like 30, something like that. Exahash. Marathon is also going to be at 23.3 exahash expected by early Q1 of 2023. You got Riot that's going to be at 12.3, I believe, or 12.8 exahash by the end of this year as well. Plus, depending on what their immersion cooling miners do, might be closer to 13.5, 14 exahash. We just don't know. So those guys are obviously growing a lot faster. TeraWulf is set to be 4.7 to 5.1. And then by 2025, they're going to be at 23 exahash, which Marathon is going to be at that spot within, basically a year's time now. The issue with them being kind of slow growth, they're going to get up there obviously, but the slow growth is a lot of the miners are installing miners. Hash rate is going to go up. We don't know where the price of Bitcoin is going to be, so I think those are some of the things that might be keeping the price down as well. They are going to be growing to be pretty big, but it's going to take them a while. And by 2025, Marathon could be at 50 exahash or something like that. We just don't know. So they're still going to be underneath where some of the top guys are at right now. So something to be mindful of there. All right. So next story is Israeli Bank Leumi to launch Bitcoin trading. So Leumi, through its digital investment platform Pepper Invest, seeks to be the first Israeli bank to offer trading of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which is really good. So obviously, again, we got this continuation of adoption happening around the world, which is bullish on Bitcoin. If you believe Bitcoin's going to reach $1 million one of these days, this is what's going to get us there, continued adoption. Pepper has partnered with the U.S.-based custody and trading platform Paxos to launch the initiative, which is still pending approval. Pepper might be required to trace cryptocurrency transactions from purchase until an eventual conversion to fiat currency, according to the Bank of Israel, which is fine. And then here's the quote from them. So we are proud to be the first in the Israeli banking system and one of the few worldwide to offer our customers to trade in cryptocurrencies simply, safely, and reliably without the need to download a crypto wallet and with all tax complexities being resolved by the bank, says CEO of Pepper, Yuri Nathan, per the release. So this is kind of actually interesting and kind of good as well. And my thoughts on it is, if you've ever traded cryptocurrencies on like exchanges like Coinbase or some of the other ones, it's really hard to get like a 1099 figured out. So that's why I've been buying and just holding, because of what a pain it is to try to figure out what your tax implications could be, right? Plus, I believe that cryptos are going to go up in price over the long run. So I'm in it for the long run. I just buy and hodl, and that's it. I want to accumulate as much as I can while I'm still able to. All right. So that's kind of my thought on that. So this is actually really good in my opinion. And then finally, this is a really long story, so this is going to take a while to go over, but it's quite interesting. So greener Bitcoin mining could be China's $1 trillion present to the US, and this is what it entails. So let me possibly zoom this in a little bit. There we go. So when China banned Bitcoin mining from May of last year, it handed the US a $1 trillion present, as one mining executive told CoinDesk. But perhaps the most importantly, crypto miners, particularly listed firms in the US, Canada, and parts of Europe, are presiding over a shift towards greener and more innovative ways to use energy for mining coins. And we've talked about this before as well. Adding to a higher mix of renewables, crypto miners are becoming more adept at balancing the load of demand at power grids, while energy giants like Exxon are now exploring new paradigms, such as piloting the use of wasted gas from its North Dakota oil wells to power Bitcoin mining operations, for example. We talked about this yesterday as well. This is all the things that we want to see in the industry. We want to see the transformation happen to renewable energies as much as we can, cleaner energies, so forth, so on. So environmental, social, and governance, ESG, pressures on crypto mining's energy use are mounting. We have been seeing this. We've been discussing it as well, both from within U.S. President Joe Biden's administration and also from the European Union with its recent deliberation on a possible ban of proof of work. We talked about this last week or the week before. An adjacent concern comes in the form of proposed rules that would give the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission insight into carbon footprints of listed firms. So they would see how much they're actually using. So the greener mining saga goes back a decade when North American constituted a mere sliver of Bitcoin's global hash rate. For those cryptocurrency frontiersmen, an obvious step towards improving the sustainable power mix was simply locating mining operations in places where an excess of renewable energy was on offer. That could be parts of Canada where there's a lot of hydropower, and more recently places like Texas with its surfeit of wind and solar. We're seeing that a lot of companies are moving obviously to Texas. So proximity matters. In such places, renewable energy production has to be curtailed at times because there's too much congestion on the power lines transmitting that energy to urban centers. So there's a need for a local load brought by Bitcoin miners who act as a kind of safety valve for stranded power that would otherwise go to waste. And this is obviously one of the key benefits to Bitcoin mining is in those areas is that they can kind of use all that excess energy that otherwise would be wasted. They can shut down relatively quickly. They can shut down within a matter of seconds when they get a call. Hey, we need more power. Could you guys shut down? They shut down. They get a little bit more. I think they get a little cash back from that, and they also get to reap the rewards of having lower electricity. So those are all good things. So proximity matters, said Peter Wall, CEO as listed mining firm Argo Blockchain, which was set up initially in Quebec, tapping into the region's hydropower and now also located in West Texas. When you are close to renewables, you have a better access to them. That's just the reality, which is true. In addition to providing renewable power, the grid in Texas, run by the Electric Reliable Council of Texas, ERCOT, incentivizes a high-capacity power user like Argo to quickly shut down at times when the utility requires a lot of power, for example, to heat people's homes in the winter or to cool them in the summer. And we've seen this. We've talked about it. There were a bunch of miners that had to obviously shut down for a little bit during the cold months back in January and February. So that is one way that they obviously help the system. If you opt in every day to be a flexible load provider, i.e. to be on call, to be shut down, the Texas grid will give you a discount on the power and will pay you back to be essentially a virtual power plant. Wall told CoinDesk to have the option to shut down instead of having to fire up some other type of generation is economically advantageous for the miner, but more importantly, it's economically advantageous for the grid because it keeps the cost of power lower for everyone, right? So everyone benefits from this. And this is Core Scientific's mining facility in Calvert City. What's KY? It's not, is that Kentucky? Might be Kentucky. So core values, Core Scientific Cores, another U.S. crypto mining giant, produces monthly reports detailing the amount of energy handed back to the grid in times of need. Other miners provide that as well. They do that by letting us know that they were shut down for X amount of hours or X amount of days during that period. Here's a quote: "We have arrangements with the communities and utilities wherein, when the grid needs it, we will power down or down power," said Core Scientific CEO Mike Levitt in an interview. "If we get a call from one of the utility companies in the geographies where we operate who need 30 megawatts available from 2 to 5 o'clock, today we put the machines into sleep mode, and it's literally a keystroke because we have a software program that manages the 160,000 plus mining rigs." That is fantastic. Being able to have that kind of control is a tremendous thing for them. Our industry really can quite legitimately, effectively, and uniquely release energy utilization to the grid. It's almost as if we're acting as a battery, which I agree, Levitt said. "What's often not recognized," he added, "is that that utility companies would normally have to rely on so-called peaker power plants in times of high demand. Generally speaking, those peaker facilities are the old ones, the dirty ones, and the expensive ones," Levitt said. "So those are usually the, not so much the coal anymore, but natural gas. And you got different types of natural gas power plants also. Some of the older ones are less efficient than the newer ones. So this obviously helps in that as well." And continuing on here, so China's ban that resulted in the down powering of mining infrastructure was a $1 trillion present to the U.S., said Core Scientific co-founder Darren Feinstein. "I am certain that people in China will question the wisdom of banning one of the largest innovations in financial, economic, and accounting history. This is not the first time China was afraid of something. The other one was obviously the internet. They didn't get on board with that. They still have a Great Wall of China for the internet. It's just one of those things that's going to drive future innovation in a tremendous way, I think, for humanity and all. That's just my thought on it. Rapid turnaround. So one of the reasons that so much of the mining industry moved into North America when China banned Bitcoin mining is that people woke up to the fact that we have a lot of excess power in the United States," said Marathon Vice President of Corporate Communications Charlie Schumacher in an interview. "Bitcoin mining went from 37% sustainably powered to 59% sustainably powered as an industry, according to Bitcoin Mining Council." So that's a council that's started by Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy. He wanted to get the word out that a lot of miners are doing a lot of good things. Here's a quote: "I don't know of any other industry that's improving its power mix quite that rapidly," Schumacher said, which I know that the other industry that's going hard on this as well is the tech sector, right? So we got companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. They're all trying to be carbon neutral or carbon basically zero. They're trying to put up huge solar arrays on their buildings and everything else to offset any power that they're using or try to be as carbon neutral as possible. So that part is doing it. That's tech. This is tech as well. And they're obviously going to be incentivized to do a better job at it going forward. We're having newer miners come on board that are more efficient, that are less power hungry. That's also helping it. So that's only going to continue on into the future, I believe. Let's see here. So the past year has also seen a rapid U-turn among power utilities that would previously not touch Bitcoin mining, but are now banging on the door of firms like Marathon, having woken up to the fact that this is a valuable way to use excess power. Schumer said, yeah, so instead of having it wasted, why not be able to generate income from this? And then you can also grow your operations, increase more power output if you wanted to. That way we have a surplus of power that's out there. Shape of things to come. So looking ahead, Bitcoin can also play a central part in the transition of energy grids to becoming more decentralized. Schumacher said because community-based renewable energy projects could use Bitcoin mining to become more economically viable with potentially battery storage. Another interesting trend would be power companies becoming the Bitcoin miners of the future, something that's being talked over right now and which would most likely happen via joint ventures, Schumer said. There's a bunch of details here I won't go into, but a crypto mining source who asked to remain anonymous said a few power companies were among a rush of speculative new entrants back in 2017 when the price of Bitcoin spiked, but that most found the infrastructure requirements were too daunting to proceed with. However, joint ventures in the future seem inevitable, the source said. And I think this is going to happen more and more. A lot of the power plants that we do have are only running at, they're not running at peak performance, they're only running at a certain percentage of what their peak performance would be because they just don't have the need for it. But if they can run at peak performance, power the miners as needed and then shut things down, the miners when power is used elsewhere that's needed, obviously they can generate a lot more income. I think it's a win-win for it all. Also, there's obviously a lot of tech involved, infrastructure as far as getting the miners. You need the substations, you need the panels, you need all this stuff has to be worked out, obviously, and that's a big something that they may not have wanted to tackle, right? But you got obviously companies that do this for a living. Why not invite them in, work with them, share in profits and everything else? I think it's a win-win. Going on here, the possibility that power companies could become Bitcoin miners has an interesting parallel in the world of proof-of-stake blockchains, where large telcos that provide infrastructure for such networks are also taking part in staking and crypto earning rewards, with the likes of Germany's Deutsche Telekom leading the way. So this is obviously another part of it as well, which is interesting. And then sustainable standards, in addition to plugging into a grid with a greener power mix. Another arrow in the quiver for Bitcoin miners is the use of renewable energy certificates, RECs, the means by which many corporate entities pay a premium to promote more renewable energy use. An accurate way of verifying the RECs has been created by decentralized data storage protocol Filecoin among its storage providers, the blockchain system equivalent to miners, and now an ambitious RECs platform tailored to Bitcoin miners has been launched in the form of Sustainable Bitcoin Standards, SPS. SPS co-founder Brad Van Voorhees, who has worked on sustainable supply chains and responsible sourcing with brands such as the North Face, Wrangler, Timberlands, and Vans, understands very well that firms don't change unless it's good for business, which is true. All right. Going down here, you can read more details on it. So there's also an RECs debate. The system is modeled on the renewable energy certificate RECs market in the U.S. is that it distributes a reward to miners whose green credentials have been first verified by the Center for Resource Solutions, a third-party nonprofit which works with the likes of Apple and Procter & Gamble. However, quantifying or auditing carbon offsetting and accounting for a possible variation in or duplication of renewable energy certificates opens up a whole new can of worms, such that the Bitcoin Mining Council, BMC, has removed RECs from its attempts to calculate how green the industry is. So this is obviously all very new still. It has to be figured out, worked out, so on. Let me see here. The problem in not counting RECs is that some Bitcoin miners want to get credit for relocating to another greener power grid, according to Doug Miller, the co-founder of clean energy platform Zero Labs. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out. Obviously, miners have the incentive to move to where power is the cheapest and possibly the greenest they can find. Speaking on behalf of the BMC, Core Scientific's Feinstein said RECs were removed in the last quarter numbers because it was judged not to be feasible to compare different REC credits across a wide range of companies based all over the world, which could be obviously a problem. The purpose of the Bitcoin Mining Council is to educate globally on what's going on in terms of the Bitcoin mining and its energy footprint. The simpler the messages, the better, Feinstein said in an interview, which I agree. If you get it too complicated, that just goes right over people's heads, I think. He also adds his role is not to become an arbiter of what constitutes green or sustainable energy use. For instance, if methane miners, which burn flare gas at drill heads to power electricity generators, are actually helping to mitigate CO2 equivalents, then perhaps they should be included in the protocol as being sustainable. Horsey said, which is a good example, I think, by him to point that out. Because otherwise, if you just burn off the methane into the atmosphere, you're creating a lot more CO2s, where if you're using a generator that's running on the methane, they have filtration, and when it's being burnt out and everything else, it puts out less CO2 into the atmosphere. So that's it. So kind of interesting here for that one. Obviously, we're going in the right direction, I think, overall. We're only, 10, 12 years into Bitcoin mining, proof of work and everything else. We started out mining it on CPUs. We went to GPUs. We went to, what were they called? Field gate arrays, FAGPAs or something like that. And then A6, obviously, where we're at now. And things are just going to continue to improve going forward. Eventually, I don't know what the likelihood of Bitcoin ever Bitcoin is ever going away from proof of work. I think we have until basically 2140 when the last Bitcoin is possibly going to be mined. At that point, we may switch over to staking or something, or we may have a mix of staking and mining at the same time. We have a long ways to go, I think. But this is just kind of interesting, so I wanted to point that out as well. So that's it. Core Scientific is reporting on Tuesday. TeraWulf is undervalued, like most miners are as well. And then Israeli Bank obviously is going to be allowing its members to trade crypto on their website, I guess, through their bank, which is really good. Adoption is what we want. Adoption is what's going to drive eventually Bitcoin to 1 million, 5 million, whatever it might be. So that's why I'm in it for the long run. I hope you guys are in it for the long run too. And we'll see how things play out. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And I appreciate you guys watching very much. Have a great weekend. We'll do miners versus Bitcoin for the weekly review tomorrow. And then we're probably going to look to see if we can do something on Sunday if anything happens interesting. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Until then, have a great night. Bye.